Haribo. So for one reason or another, I was very keenly requested by Sri Charanaravinda Prabhu and Vaishnavi at about 6 o'clock last night to say something about this this verse here. So because of their sort of nice words, I said yes, okay. And it's a very nice opportunity, seeing as I haven't sort of prepared too much, that I would like to talk a little bit about the history of the Vrindavan deities, which is quite enthralling, just in case some of you haven't sort of come across the history. It's some sort of history unfolding as we speak, because there's a really big institute of Vrindavan which has got something like 32,000 books, and they've made it available to the devotees, so there's a lot that's come out. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Voice is gone. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jayam Shripad Paramahamsa Pravachakacharya Sotara Sata Srimad Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Vedanta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Prem Chira Hojai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Vedic Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Gantaraja ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Guru Premananda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is pretty strange here because on Tuesday I gave a class on 3:18:2. 14, yeah, because yesterday was verse 3. Today is verse. Yeah. So who's got phones? Anybody? We won't go to 14. So we'll skip 10 verses. It's a really long purport. It'd sort of be finished by 8:30 by the time I got there. So it's text 4. So a couple of people with phones. Start 3. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:18:4. Tvam nasapatner abhava kimbrito. Yo mayai hantyasuram parokchit. Tvam yogamaya baham aupaporusham. Samstapya mudha pramrjay surichucha. Tvam nasapatner abhavai kimbrito. Yo maya hantyasuran parokajit. Tvam yogamaya balam aupapurusham. Samstapya mudha pramrjay suhachucha. Maji. Tvam, you, na, us, sapatne, by our enemies, abhavaya, for killing him. And it is that Prita maintained, Ya, he who, Mayaya, by deception, Hanti, kills, Asuran, the demons, Parokajit, who conquered by remaining invisible. Tvam, you, Yogamaya Balam, whose strength is bewildering power. Alpa Purusham, whose power is meager. Samstapya, after killing. Muda, fool. Pramrajay, I shall wipe out. Sarichucha, the grief of my kinsman. So this is a really heavy sloka there, and of course this is the demon Hiranyaksha addressing Viraha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You rascal! You have been nourished by our enemies to kill us, and you have killed some demons by remaining invisible. Oh, fool! Your power is only mystic. So today I shall enliven my kinsman by killing you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. But the demon used the word abhavaya, which means for killing. Sridhar Swami comments that this killing means liberating, or in other words, killing the process of continued birth and death. The Lord kills the process of birth and death and keeps himself invisible. The activities of the Lord, internal potency, are inconceivable, but by a slight exhibition of this potency, the Lord, by his grace, can deliver one from nescience. Sucha means miseries. The miseries of material existence can be extinguished by the Lord by his potential energy of eternal Yogamaya. In Upanishad, Upanishad, it is stated, Parasya Shaktir Vividheva Shruyate. The Lord is invisible to the eyes of the common man, but his energies act in various ways. When the demons are in adversity, they think that God is hiding himself and is working by his mystic potency. They think that if they can find God, they can kill him just by seeing him. Hiranyaksha thought that way, and he challenged the Lord. You have done tremendous harm to our community, taking the part of the demigods, and you have killed our kinsmen in so many ways, always keeping yourself hidden. Now I see you face to face, and I am not going to let you go. I shall kill you and save my kinsman from your mystic misdeeds. There's more over the page. Not only are demons always anxious to kill God with words and philosophy, but they think that if one is materially powerful, he can kill God with materially fatal weapons. Demons like Kamsa, Ravana, Hiranyakasipu thought themselves powerful enough to kill even God. Demons cannot understand that God, by his multifarious potencies, can work so wonderfully that he can be present everywhere and still remain in his eternal abode. Goloka Vrindavan, Omakina, Timirandasya, Chananjana, Salakaya, Chaksuram Militam, Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Durgame Padimendasya Skalapati Gatirmaho Sukripayustadana Shantu Santu Valam Vanam. So it's filling in for Vaishnavi, those who come late. So here, very powerful words, isn't it? It's like when you chant the sloka, you don't feel like chanting in a very nice, soft, melodic meter because it's just torrents of words coming out from Hiranyakasipu. And Srila Prabhupada describes here the knowledge of the demons. So the devotees have a very, very prolific saying which comes in handy so many times. We sort of know it in our sleep. Achintya beta beta tattva. You've heard that, haven't you? So Achintya beta beta tattva means inconceivably one and the same and different at the one and different at the same time. So this is Krishna. So there's a lot of explanation for Krishna, because Krishna has so many potencies. Achintya beta, unlimited potencies, like we were saying, that even his Ananta Shesh form cannot even describe the end of Krishna's potencies, even though he's got thousands of hoods. So Krishna, as we know him, comes in his form, his name, comes in his deity form, his paraphernalia, and from the past times. And the one solid fact that we do know about Krishna is that he's never alone. He's always surrounded by his loving devotees. So Krishna loves to reciprocate. And as such, the devotees know Krishna by his names according to Krishna's different leelas, like Damodar, Govinda, Madhava, Murari, and so on. At the same time, though, Krishna's in charge of this whole creation, not only the spiritual, but the material world. Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter. Everybody know that one? That was it? As the sloka go, I'm in charge of the spiritual and material worlds. Aparayam. It is, anyway. So it explains that I'm in charge of both the spiritual and the material world. Go on. Okay. So then, of course, he expands from his original form into Sankarshan, Baladev, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And from then on, all the spiritual creations, the material world manifest, but it doesn't matter how many times he expands, he's always omnipotent. He never reduces. That potency is there all the time. So these demons, such as Hiranyaksha, they see him as being one-dimensional. That's his enemy, and that's it. So the thing that Hiranyaksha describes is that he is invisible most of the time, and he usually remains like that because he's seated in the heart of the devotees. So the demons, they think that he's hiding there, but he's in the hearts of the demons as well, but they can't perceive this because they just don't have the vision. In Brahma Samhita it said, Brahmanjani churito bhakti vilochanena Shantasya Deva Hridaya Suvalochayanti Yashama Sundaram Achincha Sarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That the devotees, their eyes, they see the Lord because their eyes are tinged with that salve of love. And the Lord appears to the devotees and he stills their hearts, and that is bhakti. But for Hiranyaksha, he's just so happy to actually see that here is this form of the Lord, which, although it's quite astonishing, is mistaking him for amphibious beast. Oh, amphibious beast, best of the demigods. Obviously, it's something like he's never seen before, so he's out of the ordinary, so he describes him as best of the demigods. But of course, demigods are just demigods. They're subhumans, they're material bodies, and so therefore they can be vanquished also, just like these demons like Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, rather that they vanquished all the demigods except for the Lord Brahma. And they bullied Lord Brahma. They bullied Lord Brahma into giving so many benedictions that created so much problem for all the devotees in the universe. So he's hurling insults at him. The next one is a really good one, because Ramai Maharaj was here, but he's not here. He used to quote this a lot in the plays in Melbourne. We used to do plays in Melbourne, and he was expert at being Hiranyaksha, and he used to quote this next verse. It's a bit of a spoiler, sorry, but when you fall dead with your skull smashed by the mace hurled by my arms, the demigods and sages who offer the oblations and sacrifices of devotional service will also automatically cease to exist like trees without roots. You know, he's on stage like that. So I think he even brought a chainsaw onto the stage once. He's sort of drilling into the earth. It was unbelievable. He was really good. So this is the demigods and all the devotees. When you're destroyed, they will cease to exist. So this is how they're thinking. That they're saying here in the sloka that the suras, all the devotees, they've nourished you, they've plotted against us asuras there, and they've set you up to come and destroy us. Well, they've got news, I'm going to destroy you first. So he's knowing that the devotees, and he's factually correct too, because the devotees are praying, these demons are harassing the universe and upsetting the universal order so much that all devotees can do is take shelter of Krishna. They're praying to Krishna, please save us. And of course, Krishna, because he is worshipped by his devotees, he reciprocates and he protects his devotees, so he appears in these forms. So just like it was saying, Prabhupada was saying, demons like Kamsa, Ravana and Ranikasipu thought they were powerful enough to kill even God, like Kamsa seeing this fierce and ferocious form of Lord Srigadev with multi-arms, thousands of arms, and fierce roar that's drowning out, piercing the universe, and he's got his eyes shut, he's still fighting him. So this is the nature of the demons. They don't give up. So there is abuse that's coming out just before the fight. So, where are we? So because Krishna, he normally doesn't appear in his original expansions like this. This is a Krishna Leela. So he's about to fight with Hiranyaksha, and the battle's going to go on there. But where Krishna does, because he's a Chincha Beta Tattva, he does appear in other forms, such as his deity forms, and that is to give pleasure to the devotees. So when the devotees cast the deity form there, he's non-different from his original form, and he's invited by the prayers of the devotees and all the offerings, and then he reciprocates in his form. So there he is. So the devotees who worship Krishna in full consciousness, they see him in his form as the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita it says, Bhaktaram Jagya Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. So he's the Lord, the proprietor of everything, well-wisher of all living entities. And in this way, devotees, by the worship of Krishna, attain peace from the pangs of material existence. So a demoniac people, so we have extraordinary ugra-karmic demons like Hiranyaksha, but there's also, within the world, there are so many demons who are very envious of Krishna, and particularly in this age of Kali Yuga. So I want to talk about a particular time, was in India in the 15th century with the Mughal rulers, because there's a really interesting history of the deities in Vrindavan. So Indradumna Maharaj has documented a lot of the history that went on, and it's really spectacular. So we will start with Vrindavan, that the deity worship was revived by the Goswamis, as we know. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked them to go and excavate Vrindavan, which had been let go for about 4,500 years since Krishna had appeared there, and it was just a bunch of forests with some sages living there who actually had realization that Krishna was supreme, but was generally a very, very poor place. And Vrindavan had three principal deities in the beginning, and these deities go right back to just after Krishna left, when about 50 years afterwards, Krishna's great-grandson, whose name was Rajana. Rajabana. He was a great grandson, and he went to Vrindavan and he saw that there was nothing there. And I believe Janmejaya, who was the ruler of all of Bharatvarsa, also came to Mathura and instructed him to revitalize these sacred places where Krishna used to be around Vrindavan. It was just a overgrown, whole bunch, just totally overgrown. So the first thing that he did was that he cast 3 sets of deities of Krishna, because at that point in time people couldn't even remember what Krishna looked like. So fortunately Uttara was still there, and Uttara was the mother of Abhimanyu. She was the wife of Arjuna. So they asked her about Krishna's form and image, so they cast 3 different deities, and each deity had its own peculiar, own different rasa. So there was a Gopinath deity, the Damodar deity, and the Govinda deity. So those 3 deities were worshipped, but in due course of time, 4,500 years is a long, long time, and they had disappeared. So the Goswamis went to Vrindavan, and Rupa and Sanatan Goswami made it their particular mission to rediscover these deities. And the first one, of course, was Sanatan, that he saw some boys playing with a deity, and he thought that the deity looked at him, and then he sort of went back into the house. He sort of, what's going on here? So he went into the house, and there's this beautiful deity on the altar there, and he chastised the Brahmana there. He said, but this deity, he was playing with the boys. The boys take him out. He's a deity. He should be worshipped on the altar with all the different Pancharatrika system and all the paraphernalia. And so that night the deity appeared in Sanatan's dreams and said, I was having a good time with these boys, and now you've made me just stand on the altar, and I'm missing the association. But at the same time, he appeared in the Brahman's dreams too, and he said that I want to go with Sanatan. So of course then the Brahman picked up the deity and gave him to Sanatan, and Sanatan go, what am I going to do with the deity? I have nothing here. What am I going to offer him? And so then the Leela began, of course. Then I won't go into it too far because we haven't got time, but then one point in time he just offered him those butter balls, right? That's all he had to do, mother curry, and he get some flour and rice and then make some flour balls and offer them to the deity. And one time the deity spoke to him and said, at least you could put a bit of salt on them. And then Sanatan replied, said, well, here we go. I told you that, I had nothing. You said you wanted to come with me. Now you want salt. Next thing is you want sweets, like, where am I going to do this? So, of course, shortly afterwards, this salt merchant, just happened that a salt merchant had become past on the river Yamuna. And if you go to Vrindavan, you'll see the Madan Mohan temple is just by the banks of Yamuna. You get a beautiful view of the Yamuna River. And he got bogged. He got stranded. Big bunch of salt. He was taken to the capital city, Hastinapur. Salt was very precious in those days, and he couldn't move the barge. So he asked a couple of locals, can you please help me shift it? I said, Sanatan will do that. He arranges everything. So he went to Sanatan Goswami, and at that point in time the river rose and the barge became freed up. And he promised Sanatan that they will reward you. So on the way back he made a lot of money. So he donated the proceeds to build a beautiful temple, Madan Mohan temple. It was a gorgeous temple. That was for Madan Mohan. So that was the first deity, right? And then, of course, Rupa was looking for his deity. He was looking everywhere for his deity, and somehow or other he couldn't find him. Then one Brahmin came. It was a really interesting story about Rupa Goswami, is that when he left the service of the Nawab, he was very, very wealthy. As we know, that the Goswamis gave their wealth away, but Rupa kept some of that wealth and gave it to the Vaishyas in Vrindavan to purchase something like 500 cows and look after the cows, and that way all the sadhus could have milk every morning. That's so. The farmer, he came up to Rupa, he said, there's one particular cow on this mound that comes every day, moos, and it pours milk on this mound. This mound is really, really soft. And it was just a play of words. I haven't had time to research, but the hill was, it was sort of like, he understood that the go was the cow, and there was something on Rindakun, so it was the Govinda deity. So then he got all these people to excavate where the cow was dropping its milk, and he went down. They say he went down like about 50 feet because the ground was so soft, and there was the Govinda deity, Radha Govinda deity. And that was spectacular. And then later on, Gopinath deity was also found by another person, but the Govinda deity was the principal deity, and he was beautiful. So he was being worshipped by Rupa Goswami, and at that point in time there was this very, very powerful Kshatriya who, because at that point in time Vrindavan was under Mughal rule. It's Mughals like the Islamics. But when Rupa was around, there was a very, very auspicious king whose name was Allah Akbar. And he was a very, very philanthropic person, that he would listen to poetry, he would listen to Vaishnava philosophy. He wanted to meet Rupa. I believe he did meet with Rupa Goswami under the influence of his general, Raj Singh, who was a Sikh. He was a devotee of the Lord. So Raj Singh became very attracted to the deity of Rupa, and he said, I'll build a big temple for the deity. And Rupa, he didn't want that to really happen. He said, he's a Vrindavan deity, he's just a forest deity, you know, we don't really need a big temple, but he insisted. So he built this huge temple in Vrindavan, 7 stories high, Radha Govinda temple, right? And the Akbar, the Mughal ruler, donated 1 year's treasury from Agra, that was his capital, to help with the building of the temple. It was prolific. So that was in 1550. And then, of course, other deities, the Shyamasundra, Radha Vallabha. There was a whole lot of temples in Vrindavan. It was like a centre of learning. People would go there. It was an amazing place for 100 years, from 1550 to 1650. And at that point in time, there was a change in rule, and this terrible, terrible king by the name of Aurangzeb was sort of put fear in the hearts of all the Vaishnavas. Even if he said his name, Indradumna Maharaj said he doesn't want to even mention his name. He was so fearful. He used to torture the devotees. He hated the Vedic culture, he hated the devotees, and he hated the deities, which is the nature of the demon. So he tried to destroy that culture. So in 1669, it was a prolific date, 1669, one time he was in Mathura, and he looked across and he saw that there was a flame just early in the morning. He saw a flame and he said, what is that? Is that a star or is it a comet? There's a lot of variations on the story, but this is as Indradumna Maharaj explained it. And the person said, no, that's the light burning on the Govinda temple 30 kilometres away. What? What is this? The temple and the light's burning, I can see the light, how offensive. And it just happened to be Ekadasi. And on Ekadasi, they burnt a light at the top of the temple there. So that's what he actually saw. So he said, destroy these temples immediately. Go to Vrindavan and destroy these temples straight away. Because he'd been doing that all around. So that's why in the north of India you don't see so many temples. When you want to see really fantastic temples, where do you go? You go to the south, right? Yeah. So then there was someone that overheard that conversation, and they were petrified. He's going to take his army and he's going to come to Vrindavan. So this person straight away got on his horse and he went to Vrindavan, and he told everybody, the Mughals are coming to destroy all these temples. So there was one famous devotee by the name of Shivaram Goswami, and they had a bell. They already discussed this, that the Mughals were ferocious. At some point in time they might come to Vrindavan and try to destroy the temples of Vrindavan and get the deities. Of course, his principal aim was to destroy the deities. So then they rang a bell at midnight, a big, huge bell, like all throughout Vrindavan, so everybody heard it. So they heard the message. So all the temples began to remove their deities and to hide their deities. And true to form, as was said, the Mughal army did come in the morning there, and they began to destroy the deities. They began to ask everybody, where are the deities? Where are the deities? At that point in time, rather, Govinda temple got decimated. It was 7 stories high. Now, if you go there, you'll see that it's 2 stories. It is still there, but they destroyed 5 stories. The Madan Mohan temple was so beautiful, and that was all. It's still there, but a lot of its beauty got destroyed. And other temples that were there in the middle of town, they got destroyed too. The only one they didn't get, which was really amazing, was the Radha Raman temple. Radha Raman's this beautiful self-manifesting deity that came out of the Shalagram Shil of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And we love going there. All the devotees go there, so exquisite. But they built it in the form of a house. So when the Mughals went there, they just saw a house. But inside it's a temple, right? And outside the house there, the crescent. And that was the sign from Gopal Bhatta Goswami's descendants, that a crescent was their flag, an emblem. But they mistook it for the crescent sign of the Islamic sign, the crescent, so they paid their obeisances and they let their temple be. But in the meantime, the devotees, they hid the deities. So, where are we here? So Govindaji, he was hidden in Govinda Kund, which is a kund near the lake, near the temple there. They put him in the lake there, and then they took him to Radha Kund. So Radha Kund at that point in time was pretty overgrown. There's only a few sadhus lived there, and it was really hard to get there. Eventually all the deities did make their way there. There was one particular set of deities belonged to Radha Shyamasundara. They were in the middle of town, so there was nothing that they could do to take the deities away, because they would be seen, because the Mughals were looking everywhere for the deities. So they actually hid them in this muddy lake, and they had to stay there for 5 years until actually they can move them to Radha Kund also. And then there was this other deity, I've never seen it before, Radha Vallabha deity. Has anyone seen Radha Vallabha deity? What? That was a beautiful deity. It was purportedly carved by Vishwakarma in the age of Satyayuga. And it's not metal, he's wooden. And he's got these little gems in his eyes. So it's a particular beautiful deity, and he was worshipped by the Nimbaka Sampradaya. And there was a beautiful temple also built by Mohan Singh, who was the general for Akbar at the same time. And, it was part of the donation from the treasury. And Aurangzeb was furious that my relatives actually paid for these temples to be built, and he destroyed that temple. But actually there was a cave underneath the temple. And for those who've been to Vrindavan, there were actually 3 caves in Vrindavan. There's one under the Govinda temple, one under the Shyamasundara temple, and one under the Sri Vallabha temple. And the worship went on there for 5 years. And then after that, the deity was... actually the worship went on for 12 years. And then the deity was moved to the forest of Kamyavan. And then Aurangzeb died in 1707, so this terror went on for about 30 years. And then the deity came back to Vrindavan, But in the meantime, all the other deities, where were they? Radhakund. They haven't got the Jaipur yet. They were in Radhakund for a period of time, only a couple of years, but then the word started to get out, hey, these devotees, these deities have been hidden by devotees in Radhakund, and they were getting afraid, becoming afraid that the Mughals would find out all these whispers that were going on. So once again, Shivaram Goswami wrote a letter to a Rajput king. So Rajasthan was a state of devotees, of Rajput kings there. And there's a ruler there, and his name was something Singh. So I'll find it. So then he wrote and said, please take the deity to Kamyavan for us. So they arranged that because they had a treaty with the Mughals that the Mughals they couldn't fight the whole of India, so they had treaties there. And it just so happened that Kamyavan is one of the forests of Vrindavan, and it's on the outer edge of Vrindavan, right? But it actually belonged to Rajasthan, the Rajput kings. So they took these deities, transported them by bullock cart from Radhakund to Kamyavan. And it just so happened that Radha Govinda arrived there on Janmashtami. So there was a big celebration. There's the first celebration deity had been hiding for so long. And he was worshipped nicely in Kamyavan for a period of time, and some of the other deities were there also. So that was going on, but then at the same time, the Mughal king Aurangzeb was looking everywhere for the deities. He really didn't give up. He wanted to destroy the deities. And he suffered a lot because of his attitude. At one point in time, he said he got attacked by thousands of wasps who just stung him. Somehow or other he survived, and he had these bad dreams and premonitions that he was going to suffer, and the older he got, the more his kingdom was breaking apart, and he hadn't found the deities yet. So a couple of years into the deities being in Kamyavan, I've still got everybody with me. It's like, I'm lost here in Radhakund or somewhere. But anyway, they're in Kamyavan. It's beautiful. Who's been to Kamyavan? It's one of the forests of Vrindavan. You have too? Yeah. So there was this really funny, a peculiar group of independent, fierce people called the Jats. And the Jats were like warriors, and they didn't want to succumb to Mughal rule, so they had these little sort of parties. They'd bivouac and they'd attack a village, they'd attack Muslim travellers or whatever. They were creating a lot of havoc. And at that point in time, Shivaram Goswami got a little bit afraid that this could be a good excuse for Aurangzeb to attack Kamyavan, because he had an idea that the deities were there. So he once again asked the king to transport the deities further into Rajasthan. So at that point in time, they got the bullock cart, and once again they took the deities further in. This time they took them to a village called Badara. This was Ram Singh's nephew. Ram Singh was a great devotee. He was so happy to transport the deities. He got his nephew to do this. But there was a peculiar thing that happened in Kamyavan, that the deities that got taken there, they also had Vrinda Devi. Now, we know Vrinda Devi is one of the gopis, and she arranges all the different facilities for Krishna. They're all wearing white, or they're all got white blossoms. They've got white gems in one place and another, and then they have snow. She can change the seasons. She can do anything she likes. So she facilitates Krishna. That's Vrinda. And also Vrinda comes in the form of Tulsi as well. So she's a very special devotee. So she was there in the deity form. So they got two bullock carts. So they took Radha Govinda, and they also took Radha Gopinath, because Radha Gopinath was staying along with Radha Govinda, and they moved to Badara. But then when they got the bullock cart for Vrinda Dev, she wouldn't go. The bullock cart couldn't move. And they tried all sorts of things. They got an elephant. They tried to pull the cart with an elephant, but Vrinda wouldn't move. So she wanted to stay in Vrindavan. She wanted to stay in the forest of Kamyavan. She didn't want to go. So they understood that. So Uda Singh, who was the nephew of Ram Singh, he got his son. He said, "You have to stay here," and that's what happened. So his son stayed there, and he protected Vrinda Devi. So when the deities got to Badara, Ram Singh was there. It was like the capital, but he was looking for a new place. So he looked everywhere, and he was looking for a temple to build a temple for Radha Govinda. That was on his mind. It was going to be Radha Govinda city. And one place he found there was a whole lot of kadamba trees, beautiful kadamba trees, and then there was a lake full of lotuses. So he thought this would be a very nice place. So first thing he started to do was build his palace. So when he was building his palace, they were building the temple for the Lord. There was a lot of noise and action, activity going on, which he thought was a bit disturbing for Radha Govinda. So he transferred them into his palace. So they become his household deities. Yeah. And then when they finished the city, they called it Jaipur, City of Victory. So that's how Jaipur came about. It was actually centered around Radha and Govinda. And all the deities at that point in time moved in. Radha Gopinath deities, Radha Syama Sundara deities. And Mother Mohan also went, the principal three sets of deities were there, and there were others as well. So then they began to worship the deities in Jaipur. So then all the residents of Vrindavan, all their deities were in Jaipur, so the residents went there as well. So they began to worship the deities there, and also Jaipur became attracted attracted scholars. It became the centre of learning, and it stayed like that for quite a while. So Vrindavan started to empty out, and then the great grandson of Ram Singh, he got hit. Well, there was talk going on. We want our deities back to Vrindavan. Said, well, now that Mughal threat is finished, now can we please have our deities back? And his great-grandson just wrote the letter. He said, no. And his reasoning was that Radha Govinda, he's like the household deity now. He belongs in the palace, and he's the resident deity. He can't go anywhere. And they wouldn't give the other deities away either. So the Vrajabasis then, I think it was Baladev Vijayabhusan, he was speaking to them, and he said to create pratik forms. Pratik forms means identical forms of the deities, and that's what they did in Vrindavan. This is what we got now, and because Vrindavan is the place where Krishna was, all the Vaishnavas actually then moved back to Vrindavan. So now we have Jaipur, and we also have Vrindavan like that. So the original deities are still there in Jaipur, and it means the city of victory. So it's a victory over the demons. So the Mughal king Aurangzeb, he never actually found one deity, and so this is Krishna's mercy that deity worship is still going on. And of course these are historic deities, 4,500 years old, 5,000 years now, and so this is the bhakti that the devotees, the relationship with the deities is pretty much unbreakable. So it's a very big part of our culture here. Hacha Vigraha, deity worship, and everybody's encouraged, particularly Grihastas, they're encouraged to worship the deities. And of course this is Krishna's farm here, so the farm belongs to the deities. So I thought I'd elaborate a little bit about that. Thank you very much. Has anybody got any questions or comments? Any additional stories about Vrindavan, pastimes in Vrindavan? No? All good? All correct? Sort of? It's a lot to remember. This is a series of lectures that Indradumna Maharaj gave over 3 sessions, so I've abbreviated. I recommend it. It's easy. To find it, Indradumna Swami lectures on deities in Vrindavan, and you can listen, and he's elaborated much more than what I have. It's really enjoyable, fantastic, enlivening. Hear it. We all good? Jai all glories to Srila Prabhupada.